So today on SW Property Matters, the SW Property podcast, we're doing something a little bit different, as when we put this out, it will be International Women's Day, and we're going to be finding out a little more about a few of our female members of staff, chatting to them about their career paths, what International Women's Day means to them. But before that, I'll let them all introduce themselves. Jo, did you want to start?
Hi there, I'm Jo Williams. I'm a chartered building surveyor and I'm the partner in charge of the building consultancy team down in the Bristol office.
And we've got Olivia, who works with Jo.
Hi, I'm Olivia. I'm a graduate building surveyor and I work for Jo in the Bristol office.
And then Hayley.
Hello, so I'm Hayley Evans. I actually head up the marketing at Sanderson Weatherall, so I'm not a surveyor, but I work with Dan across all the offices.
Great, so we've got a bit of a range of, I guess, perspectives. We'll dive straight in and just, I guess, chat. How did you all, well, I guess not for you, Hayley, but how did you get into the property industry? Talk to us a bit about sort of your career path and sort of how you've ended up where you are today.
Okay, shall I kick off then?
Yeah, that's great.
I first got into the property industry because I wanted to do something a little bit different, something challenging and a bit more creative. I knew when I was at school I didn't want to be in an office 9 to 5. I knew that was a certainty, but I didn't quite know what else to do. So I was initially attracted into construction, and then I sort of fell into building surveying by a very convoluted path, and then ended up in the property industry. And I think building surveying is a great balance of sort of office and site-based activities, and equally a balance between sort of professional and technical skills. So it suits my character quite well, and it feeds my inner geek. What about you, Olivia?
So for me, I was kind of dragged around castles as a kid, and kind of always had I was really interested in historic buildings, and I really like grand designs and things like that. I was supposed to be going to uni to do a completely different course, and then I did some volunteer work on chateau renovations in France over the summer, and I just thought, wow, how can I have a job where I'm doing something like this? And I basically Googled careers and found building surveyors, and I haven't looked back since. So yeah, that's me.
That's great.
Cool.
And Hayley, you've ended up at a property firm, but I'm guessing you didn't have sort of aspirations to get into commercial property.
No, it was, I definitely fell into it when I joined 7 years ago, and I had to Google what surveyors were when I came for my interview. But I actually do love it. I think it's become an industry that I've always been interested, I suppose, in architecture and interior design, so it fits quite perfectly, but it's probably more by accident than necessarily something that I planned to do.
Yeah, I think Olivia, like you mentioned, grand designs and shows like that, I've always sort of watched them, but working here, I guess a bit like Hayley, I've got a bit of a better understanding of when they go quite technical on shows like that, of actually completing the work. And from speaking to people like you and the other surveyors around the office, it does give a different perspective of it all.
Yeah, definitely.
I think we added this in. It's quite a difficult question to answer, possibly, but it's Friday today. We're going to release this on Monday, which is International Women's Day. I wondered what importance the day has to you, what it means to you. Perhaps you could discuss that a little bit.
Yeah, so I think for me, I definitely feel like, I mean, I'm 32 years old, and I really feel like I'm living in a time where it's easier to be a female. But I think that International Women's Day is just really important to acknowledge that generations before me, it has been a lot tougher, and also celebrate the work that people have done before me to make it easier. And I'm not saying it's sort of, a perfect world right now, but it's definitely important to look back and celebrate what other people have achieved and the hard work that they've done to allow, I suppose, females of my generation and younger to just feel a bit easier in life.
Yeah. Anyone else have anything to add?
I agree with you, Hayley. But also I think it's just about celebrating the achievements, which, weren't celebrated for quite a long time. And also, celebrating where we are now in terms of equality. And we do still have some way to go, but I think it's really good to celebrate where we are now and how far we've come.
Those are both really good points, actually. And when I was thinking about this question earlier, I was thinking there are still inequalities in our industry, but International Women's Day is all about awareness and global awareness, not just construction and property, which we're in. And although the balance is getting better, like you say, Hayley, in other parts of the world, it's just as it was for us, say, 100 years ago. So the imbalances globally still need to be aligned. So the more celebrations that we can do ourselves here in the industry and the professions we're in will highlight the inequalities still to go and give momentum to the change that we've already had. There is loads of talented, eager in our industry, and the more we can collaborate and show them what the potential is and what their career potentials are, the more momentum we can get. And I mean, this year's strapline is the hashtag choose the challenge, and it's like, take that challenge and go for it kind of thing. I think that's a great hashtag to use. We're just at the right time of our development to say that, I think.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I think you spoke a bit about the particular industry we're in, obviously the property industry, Joe. I've got on the notes here about the Association of Women in Properties, obviously one of the best networks, I think, for anyone involved in the property industry. Joe, you were chair of WIP a couple of years ago. I'd like you all to chat really about your experiences, but Joe, I think it makes sense to start with you on that one, about what WIP's doing for the industry, and I guess a bit about what it is as well.
Yeah, well, Women in Property, I've been a member since 2007, and I was regional chair in the Southwest in 2012 and then national chair in 2018. So it's kind of a bit sort of inbred in me now. But Women in Property is a sort of members network, and it provides support for all ages of women with mentoring, networking, self-development. We have the annual student awards programme and also the mid-career task force. So we influence thinking about women, showcase our role models and give support to those already within the industry. I'd actually encourage any woman to get involved, whether young, starting out in the industry, or an old crusty like me who has the opportunity to give back to the younger ones through mentoring and advice. But there's also more I can still learn from the younger ones coming in, because perspectives change and generational differences. So you never stop learning and growing. And it's just a great forum to do that, because it's everyone comes together and collaborates. What do you think about it, Olivia?
Yeah, I think it's really great. I've had some really good experiences at seminars and then chatting to people afterwards. And I've met so many people I would otherwise not come into contact with, and built up some nice relationships. I also have a mentor, which is really nice. We catch up every now and again and set targets, and that was really good throughout COVID, working from home. And I'd also encourage anyone to join, really, because you can make some friends, and it's just a fun thing to do, really.
I think so I've not really had huge amounts of involvement with women in property. I suppose because I'm not a surveyor, but I would say that some of the events that I've attended, what I've really loved is that there are men there too, because I feel like it's really important that it's not just women getting together to celebrate women and encourage women, but men are also there to just listen and take part, and I suppose will help represent equality for women. I just think that was definitely a really positive thing that I took from it when I've been to some events.
Yeah, that is a positive, Hayley, and we actively encourage men to come along to our events. There are some member-only events that they can't come to, but most open events we would encourage it. And actually having more guys come along helps us get the message across about all the benefits of diversity and inclusion, and how great women are in those mixed teams. When I first started out, I didn't know about women in property. I certainly didn't have any female role models. So all my role models and my personal sponsors were men. So they are an important part of our own development as well as the industry development.
That's great. I was going to say as well, Olivia, you mentioned that during lockdown you've sort of attended a few things virtually. I've got to say, from sort of looking online, women in property probably head and shoulders above others, I think, on that, from what I can see, that they've really kept the events going and kept the support going, where I think others were maybe a little slower to react and putting events on. From what I can see, I've not attended them myself, but there's really been a lot going on for people to keep in touch, which is great.
Yeah, I did a yoga series and a HIIT series. That was really fun. It was like every Thursday morning, and I was working alone in the house all day, so it was really nice just to see people and do a workout, and it kind of kept things a bit more positive, really. So things like that were really good. Yeah.
That's great. Hayley, obviously, as we've said, much like me, you're a bit of a property outsider, not being a surveyor. How have you found sort of the industry's attitude towards women compared to others you might have worked in previously?
Well, I've worked in retail, recruitment, tech, and I've also worked for a charity. And I mean, there's no denying that property is quite male dominated, and I think that's especially at the top. It is quite male dominated. But I do think, as you look at the graduates coming through and sort of maybe surveyor, associate partner level, there are more and more women. I think there's more women taking property degrees. So I think that naturally, as more women filter through and more of them acquire more senior positions, I think that it will change, and I think it will become more of an equal industry.
Yeah. Olivia, you've graduated, well, I can't remember when, it's probably been a while now, but you've graduated most recently, I guess. What tips would you give to perhaps, I guess anyone, but particularly female budding surveyors that are studying at the moment, about getting into the industry, working within it, sort of in your first couple of years?
Yeah, so I would say while you're at uni, just try and get as much experience as possible. So even if it doesn't seem totally relevant, just go for it really, because you're going to meet people and you're going to have experiences. And even if it doesn't tell you what you do want to do, it might tell you what you don't want to do. So yeah, just try and get experience at different companies, maybe some volunteering, whatever you can do. And then once you have graduated, just say get involved in things, go to events, have a chat, just get to know people really, and kind of widen your network.
Great. And then Joe, maybe putting you on the spot a little bit, but a step further back, I guess, people that maybe aren't sure or don't know about surveying, how do you think the best way that we can start attracting younger people into the world of surveying? What's the best way to get the message out there?
Well, Women in Property do the roadshow programme, but that's targeted more at school level, trying to get the wider picture out there. Our ICS have been trying for years to kind of raise the profile of surveying professions. Talking completely candidly about building surveying, it's not the type of career that attracts that many women, because it's seen as a bit more technical, a bit more geeky.
Yeah.
And I think that is a challenge. Generally, getting girls interested in surveying is one challenge, but then getting them interested in building surveying is the next level on.
Yeah.
And I think that is just about raising awareness. I mean, I never knew building surveying was a career option when I was at school. I had no idea what it was. I'd been working for 2 years before I even realised building surveying what it was.
I'm the same. I only found out about building surveying because of one of my sister's friends. It'd never been advertised to me in school, or yeah, it was just by complete chance I ever heard of it too. So
I think we've have we lost?
Yeah, I'm back.
And Olivia picked up pretty seamlessly, Joe. I think it worked quite well.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we've spoken about on the podcast before with Josh and Ellie, that I think certainly to get into surveying, speaking to people around SW and around other firms in the industry, it's very much everyone sort of knew someone that did it before, and that's how they learned about it. It's not necessarily that widely a known profession.
No.
No, you're right. You're right, and it is awareness, and that is just talking about it and showcasing it, and things like International Women's Day, where you can celebrate female role models who are already in those professions. You know, that's so critical, because people don't know about it otherwise.
Yeah.
Mm.
Right. Another quite tough question. I think I've come in with quite a few today. Do you think there are things that we can do to make the workplace even more inclusive? And this is sort of across all business. Do you have any sort of opinions on that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we've got to keep challenging the old norms and the attitudes. They are still there. Those kind of fear-based kind of preconceptions and all the rest of it, they are less, but they are still apparent in some of our workplaces, especially in the older generations. So we need to keep challenging the norms and those attitudes, and keep like showing how good we are as women. So highlighting successful women, getting those role models, showing the benefits of diverse workplaces. But don't forget that diversity and inclusion is more than just the gender issue. A truly diverse industry would include sort of ethnic differences, those with mental and physical disabilities, different sexual or religious choices. We're all human beings, and everyone has something to bring to the table. And those benefits that when they're brought to the table are great. But not everyone sees that. Just got to keep talking about it.
That's great. Does anyone else have anything to add on that, do you think?
Yeah, I just think we've got some work to do. And this is probably culturally as well as in the workplace, that I think that there are certain characteristics, like being strong or determinated, opinionated, or just wanting to challenge things, that are things that are celebrated in men and seen as strengths, but in women they can sometimes be seen as negatives.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Hayley.
Yeah, so for women you could be a bit bossy or being difficult or overbearing, and I think that's something I've really sort of, as I've got older, and I'm still sort of fairly young in my career, but I'm starting to really feel those and sort of think about how can we work towards changing how those perceptions are.
Well, that's the kind of the unconscious bias coming out, and that's because they've thought that for many years. It's changing those old school attitudes, and we just got to keep plugging away and keep showing how good that a woman is. She's not bossy, she's assertive. If she was a bloke, she'd be assertive. So just because she's a woman, she's still assertive. She's not bossy or aggressive. So it's changing those attitudes subtly, and I think the best way to do that is to show them the benefits of doing it. Just saying to somebody you've got to change your attitude is counterproductive, because they're not going to do that. But if you can show them that is the benefits of it, and that's, you know, how we are now, then that becomes their accepted attitude from that point onwards. And there's no golden bullet as such with any of this. You've just got to keep plugging away.
What about you, Olivia?
I think you're both right, and I think construction and property is, well, it is kind of known for being a certain type of person, and I think that'd be quite intimidating to go into. So I'm not surprised a lot of women are put off joining those industries. But as Jo says, just different female role models and making the workplace more diverse, I think it just will get better and better. As we've already seen, it's much better than it used to be.
I also think actually the sort of younger generations of men don't necessarily have all of those preconceptions instilled in them. So I think that it naturally also will become easier, and attitudes will be less ingrained amongst younger generations.
You're right, Hayley. It will become easier. I'm a fairly optimistic person, and I agree with you. We are seeing generational changes, and even in my career, I can see the old guard, as they've now retired, and the slightly younger ones who are now the old guard have got a different attitude to what it was 20 years ago. And but those changes do take time. You're talking like 20, 40 years sort of generational kind of reinstatements of attitudes, and it is it's slow progress, but it is progress.
That's really interesting. Really quite, I guess, for me, quite eye-opening. I hope to others that are listening. I think the thing that sort of stuck with me, and Joe, you said it, is at least we're having these conversations, and we need to keep having these conversations and sort of not be afraid to, like you say about the message on Monday. Well, today when you're listening to this, I guess, the choose to challenge. It's really about that. It's standing up, and if you do believe something, sort of not being afraid to be able to say that wherever you are in the world and whatever sort of industry you're working in.
Yeah.
Really good. I'm going to move on, unless anyone had anything else they sort of want to talk about around that, to a few quick fire questions, which we always end the podcast with. I think I know that people listen all the way to the end, because this is often what they're questioning me about afterwards when we put them out. Yeah, we've got some quick fire questions I'll run through. As there's three of you, I'll sort of go round and do the question, a question at a time to help speed it up a little bit. But if anyone wants to add anything else, then feel free to jump in now.
Okay.
All good.
Go for it.
Right. Okay. So I guess it seems quite silly after quite a very serious discussion, but it's nice to end on a bit of a lighter note, I guess. So we'll jump straight in. Are you coffee or tea drinkers?
Ooh.
Joe, do you want to start?
Tea in the morning. But if I'm not making tea myself, I'll have coffee, because I don't trust anybody to make me a cup of tea.
That's true. I drink about 10 cups of herbal tea a day, but I also have a couple of coffees because I need the energy.
And I am coffee, all the way coffee. I've invested in a coffee machine actually during lockdown, so
Good purchase.
That's commitment.
And then the next one, do you prefer reading, or have you Netflix binged much like I have through lockdown?
Oh, I've converted to audiobooks during lockdown.
Oh wow! So we need a third.
I've done great thing. I've got a subscription. I've gone through hours and hours and hours and hours of the classics when I'm either driving or gardening or walking the dogs or whatever it might be. And yeah, it's great. I'm completely converted to audiobooks now.
Oh, great. Right, we'll add a third option in for next week.
I absolutely love reading. I read every day, and I've read so much in lockdown, which was really awesome. But like Joe, I've also discovered audiobooks this year. Having a really great book on the go while you go out running, I find I'm running for like twice as long, so I'm just really enjoying the book. So that's a positive.
Oh, I'm Netflix. Sorry, guys. Lower this down.
What have you been watching?
Oh God, we've watched so much stuff over lockdown. I think the last thing we watched, which is an old series, but it was The Fall, with Gillian Anderson. That was really good. But I think we were possibly like 5 years behind the curve on that one. But still pretty good.
I'm a big fan of a Netflix thriller. I think we got Tom and Nick last week to recommend shows, and that was probably the question they struggled with most. I think we watch so much at the moment. It's like, oh, what do I do?
I tell you what is brilliant, actually. We're just watching The American Office, and I know, Dan, you're watching that as well. But that is well worth a watch, especially for some of the stuff we've been talking about today.
I binged that in literally 2 weeks, just recently. It's so funny. Every episode is so hilarious.
Yeah.
Great.
Now that wouldn't normally appeal to me, but I might have to go and watch that now you've said it.
It's really relatable. When you work in an office, you can definitely think about some of the characters, and yeah.
That's very good. Then in terms of houses, do you prefer new build or period properties?
Oh, you're asking a building surveyor that's really unfair, Dan.
I would have said period, but I moved into a Victorian flat, and I've spent the winter here with the rattly sash windows. So now I think I'd go for a new build.
Very good. Hayley, do you have a preference?
Period, I think.
I think we're finding most people, maybe it's a property thing. I think they maybe have a bit more interest in the quirky differences of properties.
Yeah, you always hear horror stories about new builds as well. Are we allowed to say that on a property podcast?
That'll be bleeped
Take
out.
it back.
I'd agree with you. We look at some of the disputes, they're often about new builds, but we won't go there on this.
Another very topical one, with everything that's going on at the moment. Do you prefer online shopping, or are you a high street shopper?
Well, I try and do all my shopping locally, and where I've struggled over lockdown, I have started to use Amazon more because of being able to get what you can, but I don't use any of the big main supermarkets at all. I use all my local suppliers and my refills. I'm a bit of a geek, like you say.
It's really good.
I really like to do everything in person. I've never successfully bought any clothes or shoes online. So, and food, I just love browsing really. There's not much to do in lockdown. So actually going food shopping is kind of fun now. Yeah.
I've definitely done a lot more online shopping this past year, just with the pandemic. But I would say I find it easier. I'm not really one for trawling through, big department stores that are busy, but shops that can make it interesting and make it an experience, then I'm all up for going in them. But I think retailers, this is another topic, but retailers have a long way to go to drag people back into the shops, I think.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, Hayley. Retail is going to have to reinvent itself after this, because we've got some established online habits now after lockdown.
Yeah.
And I say keep shopping local. I've had to resort to internet shopping for some things just because everything's closed. So
Yeah.
Cool. And then obviously again moving sort of out of the pandemic, but we've all been working from home for quite a bit now. Do you prefer working from home in the office, or is it a blend moving forward?
I'd personally like to see a blend. I've actually found it easier managing household duties and managing the dogs and family commitments, having that sort of flexibility from being at home. But equally, I've really missed not being in an office environment and sort of seeing Olivia every day and others in the office. The camaraderie and the teamwork really has suffered. And we've had to try to compensate for that different ways. So I'd like to see a kind of blended model coming back in off the end of this.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Jo. It's really nice being able to do a load of washing or something.
Yeah.
While you're at home, and that's really good. But I really miss the office. I miss everyone in the office. I miss, just making a cup of tea for someone and having a chat. I think it can get a bit lonely at home. So
yeah,
I think having the option to work at home some days, especially if it's a day where you're feeling a bit under the weather, maybe, it's really good. But actually, some time in the office, I think, is really beneficial to everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
I agree with both of you. I think sort of not having the commute every day, it has, significant health benefits for people. And I think having time to just be able to do stuff around the home or stuff with your family or walk the dog, like you say, that is just, I think it's become so valuable. I think it would be hard to then have that taken away 5 days a week. But I also miss my colleagues, and I think working marketing, it's really hard to do that sat in a spare bedroom on a laptop on your own all the time. You need people and ideas and to be around your colleagues. So I think a blend. I'm sure, well, I think most employers will probably look towards a blend, because I don't think we'll be able to rush back immediately anyway.
Yeah, I think employers that try and reinstate what we had before rigidly will fall foul of the employee's choice, I think, and that the extent of that blend will depend on the employer and the type of work that you do. But I think it's inevitable that some kind of blending is going to have to happen.
Yeah,
I think you're right. Very good. Right, the question that stumps a lot of people. You're allowed one dream dinner guest. Who would you pick and why? Jo.
No, go for it, Olivia. You go first.
I mean, I was thinking about this, and I could go for someone highbrow, but to be perfectly honest, I'd have someone really fun and really wacky, like Lady Gaga.
Nice.
Great answer. Very good. Joe?
Well, I was going to be a bit more sentimental, and my dream dinner guest, I think, would be my old nan, because she sort of taught me my kind of life lessons of the kind of person I am and my ethics and my kind of moral standing on the world. And I think it'd be really nice to catch up with her and show her what I've become.
That's very sweet.
See, I'm exactly on Joe's wavelength, because I was going to say my mum, because who remembers a time where you could just sit and have dinner with your mum?
Exactly.
So
Lady Gaga was such a good answer, Olivia, and then you've been absolutely outdone by too sentimental.
And there's not many people that would call me sentimental, I can assure you.
Well, thank you all very much. I think, like I say, it was really interesting, and then I guess great sort of chat through the last few questions in a bit of detail. Thank you all for joining. Have a great weekend, and yeah, look forward to putting this out there.
Yep, and hope everyone enjoys International Women's Day.